She stepped in, he stepped back. The door closed. From the inside, there was no handle. Tonight, the file is not mine. Her name was Emeline Cigrand. This is what she saw in the time she had left 133 years ago. She arrived in Chicago in May, when the World's Fair was the only thing the country could talk about. A doctor on 63rd Street had advertised for a stenographer. He paid more than the position was worth. She did not ask why. She found his building at the corner of 63rd and Wallace. 3 stories, no sign on the door. Windows bricked over like eyes shut from the inside. He met her at the entrance. He was tall, he was handsome. His eyes were a color she had never seen on a man. He smiled at her. She thought it was kindness. It was not. He called the building the Castle. The position came with a room. She moved in the next morning. He told her his name was Henry Howard Holmes. He told her he was the descendant of an English lord, and that one day, when his estate cleared, they would live in a manor house in Berkshire. She believed him. She had grown up in Lafayette, Indiana. Her father was an immigrant. Their farm had no electricity. The man in front of her offered her 3 things at once: a salary that doubled her old one, a house in the heart of the busiest city in America, and a future she had not let herself imagine. She wrote to her parents the first week. She told them she had never been so happy. She would write to them many more times. The letters would get shorter. In her first month, she learned the rhythm of the building. The first floor was Holmes's pharmacy and a few small shops. The second floor was where he kept his office and his laboratories, and the rooms he asked her not to enter. The third floor had bedrooms. Some of them were rented. Some of them were locked. Some of them, Holmes told her, were not finished yet. She did not ask why some of the finished ones were also locked. He took her to the World's Fair grounds on bicycles. Workers were laying the foundation of what would become the largest wheel ever built, a wheel as tall as a 26-story building. He told her, on the way home, that they would ride it together. She would not live to see it turn. He bought her flowers. He laughed at her jokes. On the 6th Sunday, he asked her to marry him. She said yes. He had been married twice before. He was still married to both of them. She did not know. A man named Ned Connor came into the office on a weekday afternoon. He was a former employee of Holmes, a jeweler who had worked downstairs. His wife, Julia, had vanished from the castle a year earlier. His daughter, Pearl, very young, had vanished with her. Holmes was not in. Connor stood at Emeline's desk, looking at her for a long time. Then he said, quietly, "You should leave this place. You should leave today." She thanked him for his concern. She did not leave. 2 of her cousins, Dr. and Mrs. B.J. Cigrand, came to visit her in the autumn. She gave them a tour of the building. They walked through the corridors with her. They smiled when she smiled. They said nothing. She thought the visit had gone well. She did not see them speaking quietly to each other on the train back to Indiana. She did not know they had felt the cold of the building, the wrong of the doors, the smell on the second floor. They did not tell her. By autumn, the castle had begun to teach her things. A young woman named Anna had been hired as a typist in August. She had stayed 3 weeks. One morning, her room was empty. Holmes told Emeline she had gone home. A laborer who had been replacing pipes in the basement had asked Holmes about a smell coming through the wall. He had finished his work and left the next day. He did not return for his last paycheck. There were nights now when Emeline heard sounds she could not place. A door closing on the second floor when no one was meant to be there. Footsteps in the hallway above her bedroom, walking slowly then stopping. A noise from the basement, twice, that sounded like someone striking metal with a soft fist. She wrote to her parents about none of it. She told herself the building was old, that every old building made noises. She told herself the smell on the second floor was from his laboratory work. He was a doctor. He worked with chemicals. She told herself Anna had simply gone home. She told herself Ned Connor had been bitter and afraid for nothing. She told herself her cousins were old-fashioned and uncomfortable in modern places.
She told herself she had agreed to marry the kindest man in Chicago. In the first week of December, she came down with a cold. Holmes brought her tea. He sat by her bed. He read to her from a book of poetry. He asked her that night when she would feel ready to set a date. She told him after the new year. He smiled at her. She thought it was kindness. That same week, a neighbor named Mrs. Lawrence had her over for tea. Mrs. Lawrence was in her 50s. She had been kind to Emeline since the day she moved in. Emeline gave her a small wrapped present, an early Christmas gift. Mrs. Lawrence asked her gently if her feelings for Holmes had changed. Emeline did not answer for a long time. Then she said one sentence. "He turned out to be a bad man. I'm leaving as soon as I can." Mrs. Lawrence asked her where she would go. She asked her when. She asked her if she was safe. Emeline did not answer. She finished her tea. She thanked Mrs. Lawrence. She walked back across the street into the castle and closed the door behind her. It was the last sentence anyone outside the castle would ever hear from her.
3 days later was the day she had sat privately to leave. She had packed a trunk. She had written to her parents. She had told no one, not Mrs. Lawrence, not her cousins, not the man she was leaving, that she was going. That morning, Holmes came to her room. He was calm. He was kind. He was the man she had agreed to marry. He told her he had something to show her before she went anywhere. A wedding gift, he said. He had ordered it specially. It was downstairs. He asked her to follow him to the basement. She followed him. She did not know why. Perhaps she still hoped that the bad man Mrs. Lawrence had heard about was a misunderstanding. Perhaps she still loved him. Perhaps she only wanted, on her last morning in that building, to give him one final chance to be the man he had pretended to be. He took her down the stairs. He took her past the laboratories. He took her past the rooms she had been told not to enter, and he opened a door at the back of the basement that she had never seen open before. Inside was a room. It was the size of a small bedroom. The walls were lined with iron. The door was thick. The floor was wet. He told her the gift was inside. She stepped in. He stepped back. The door closed. From the inside, there was no handle. For a long second, she did not understand. She knocked on the door, lightly. She said his name. She said it was not funny. He did not answer. She knocked harder. She called his name again. He did not answer. She put her hand on the wall. The wall was cold. The air was already changing. The wetness on the floor was not water. She did not recognize what it was. She would when she kicked the door. The acid was on the soles of her feet now, biting into her skin and into the iron. The print of her bare foot pressed itself into the enamel of the door, and the acid burned it deeper and deeper and deeper until it was a thing that could not be erased. It would still be there a year later when the police walked into that basement. It would still be there when the building was torn down. The air thinned. She kept kicking. He spoke to her then, through the door. He told her he would let her out, on one condition. She had to write a letter to her parents, telling them not to worry, telling them she was happy. And to her fiancé, a man named Robert Phelps, a man she had never met, a man Holmes was inventing in real time on the other side of the door, telling them she had married him and was leaving the country and would not be writing again. She would have known by then that he was lying. She wrote the letter anyway, because the only thing on the other side of refusing to write it was certainty. She wrote it in the dark, sitting against the iron wall, breathing air that had less and less inside it. When she was done, he took the letter through a slot in the door. He did not open the door. She kept kicking for a while. Then she did not. The print of her foot is the only thing she left behind. Her file ends here, but her body is still in that basement, and the man who closed the door is still upstairs. He is not finished. Stay. The worst of it has not happened yet. Before he was Holmes, he had another name. Before the castle, there were bodies. Before Emeline, there had already been women who walked into rooms in that building and did not walk out. He had built the castle for this. 100 rooms without windows, doors that opened into brick walls, rooms that swallowed sound, gas valves he turned from his bedroom closet, chutes that ran down, a kiln, a vault, an acid pit waiting in the basement. Every few months he fired the construction crews so that no man alive, when it was finished, would know the full layout of it. He had built her death before she ever saw the door. She was not the first. A woman named Julia and her daughter, very young, vanished from the second floor a year before Emeline arrived. The hair in the stovepipe, found later, was theirs. A young woman named Minnie, who was going to marry him before Emeline did, was poisoned upstairs. Her sister Anna had been sent to the vault the day before to fetch a file. A man named Peitzel, his partner, burned to death in Philadelphia for $10,000 in insurance. And the children in the autumn of 1894. Their names belong to the records and to the long silence of their parents. A Pinkerton named Frank Geyer found what was left of them. The castle was searched. The bones, the hair, the footprint in the vault, all of it was found. Holmes was arrested in Boston. He was tried in Philadelphia for the murder of Peitzel, only Peitzel, and convicted in 2 days. In prison, awaiting death, he wrote a confession. 27 names. Some were still alive. The ones who were not, he had killed. About himself, he wrote one line: "I was born with the devil in me." He was hanged on May 7th, 1896. By the time this file reaches you, 130 years will have passed. He had asked the executioner for one favor on the way to the rope. "Take your time, old man. Don't bungle it." The trap dropped. His neck did not break. He twitched on the rope for 15 minutes. He had asked for one more thing before they hanged him: a coffin sealed in cement, 10 feet underground, so that no man would ever dig him up. It worked. In 2017, his great-grandchildren had him exhumed. The coffin was opened. The body was there. The flesh was almost intact. The cement had preserved him too well. He looked, the report said, as if he had been buried yesterday. Emeline has no grave. Holmes sold her skeleton, articulated, polished, anonymous, to a medical college in Chicago, the LaSalle. After that, the records stop. The college closed. The skeletons were sold, donated, redistributed. Some are still in classrooms. Some are still in storage rooms. Some are still being studied by students who have never been told whose hands they are holding. The question I have tonight is not for the records. It is for you, in your town, in your university, in the old anatomy lab no one uses anymore. There is a skeleton on a stand with no name on it. There is a skull in a glass case with a card that has gone yellow. Leave it on my desk. I will not answer, but I will read. And the most haunting one, I will open in the next file without your name, so that whoever sent it knows they are the one being read. I will open the file. This is case file number 7, The Architect of the Vanishing. There is a file in the drawer I have not opened yet. Some things even I have not been ready to read. The next one is worse than this. I will not lie about that. When I open it, do not be alone. Good night.